Welcome to episode 3 of Coach's Conversations. I've got my guy, Ryan Arrowood, Coach Arrowood here. Coach, how you doing, man?
Oh, pleasure to be here, man. I'm excited. I can't wait till we can do this in a gym or until we're doing this after a good pickup session where we talk about how old we are. But
absolutely.
This will be great so far. I've loved the previous 2 episodes, so very, very fortunate to be on with you.
Man, I'm happy to have you on and excited to learn from you today. For those of you that don't know, Coach Arrowood is the head men's basketball coach, newly hired at the University of Rio Grande, and it is not Rio, it is Rio. For you non-Ohioans or West Virginians that don't know.
Even our recruits, we've explained that, but sometimes they've made a mistake in their acceptance video or something. So it's different. We're getting everybody introduced to it.
There you go. So Coach Arrowood, man, he's been on quite the journey. From Hannon High School to Rio Grande and multiple stops in between. And been a friend of mine. I had the opportunity to work with him a couple months, transitioning into the St. Albans job as his assistant for a couple months. Learned a whole lot. And Coach, just talk to us a little bit about your career thus far, man. You started at Hannon, and take us from there.
I've been blessed. You know, if I didn't get to play with the players and the coaches that I had, I don't know that this would have happened. You know, and I won't take too long, but my story is just it's so neat when you look back at it. I got the coaching bug and the itch when I went to Donnie Jones basketball camp, and Donnie Jones was a young aspiring coach who was from Point Pleasant. And, you know, growing up from Hannon, you're told more what you can't do than what you can. Right. So to see someone from Mason County be a Division I assistant coach, and that really coincided to 2 years after that, Charlie Hagley, who was from Hannon High School, was a Division I assistant at Marshall University. So I was blessed to have those 2 guys to look up to like, well, you can do this.
Right.
Like this can happen. And, you know, when you look back at my journey, I was so blessed to have those 2 guys who had done it from Mason County, from places where no one else had done it before. That was a really motivating factor for me. And then in high school was just told, you know, what you can't do. And Hannon had never been to a state tournament. And I had an amazing, you know, I had amazing coaches my high school career. And then Wayne Richardson, my senior year was, you've met Coach Wayne. I mean, there's no chance I'm here if he's not my coach. And he changed the course of my career by how he made the game of basketball feel. And I'd starved for that. And so once I tasted that, it's never been the same. And we were able to go to a state Final Four, and, you know, I was able to achieve some individual awards, but the greatest awards were the team. You know, the fact that our team was able to do it. And then that just stuck with me. Was able to play basketball at Rio Grande, started on the JV program and worked my way up through the varsity program and graduated from there and went back to Hannon High School and coached there for 2 years. Realized I wanted something bigger. I wanted to try to be a college coach, and went to the University of Rio Grande again and was able to coach with Coach French for 2 years, which propelled me to go to Mountain State University. And my stop there at Rio Grande, I was able to make some connections, which led me to my next coaching adventure when Mountain State kind of imploded and the school shut down. And I was able to go to Huntington Prep and just learn and grow so much and coach amazing, talented players and great personalities. And then was fortunate enough to start the program at Teays Valley and have the success we had there for 5 years. So every step along the way, I've just been blessed. But you know, the game of basketball used to be a worldly passion. It's now a place where my faith can coexist with what my passion is in this world. Right. And there's just so many people. We could do a 30-minute segment on the amount of people who have been great to me, so that I have this opportunity to wake up. This still hasn't sunk in, that I wake up every day to be a basketball coach. Like, that's amazing to me. It's phenomenal. So that's the short story. Pretty much, nuts and bolts of that is I'm extremely blessed. And there's just been a lot of people, I didn't talk about my parents, taking me to every tournament and taking me to camps, and my best friends were basketball. I mean, I could get into this, but I've just been very, very blessed.
So you touched on kind of the origins of your love and passion for the game of basketball. And, obviously one of the things that anybody that knows you or has worked with you or even played pickup with you know is that you absolutely love to compete. And you love the game. And I think those are two things, having a passion for the game, having a passion to compete, are two things that I think everybody that wants to be successful needs to have, and that doesn't have to be a love for the game of basketball. It could be a love for whatever you want to do, So talk a little bit about that, the origins of that love.
I wish there was I just kind of ingrained. We used to play pickup on my old dirt court on Rocky Fork Road with older, with my uncle and my cousin and, friends of my sister, and I just love to compete, no matter what it was. If it was flag football, if it was badminton. Me and my dad used to play badminton with girls' tennis rackets and expand the court so we could crack it. And I'm 7,
Right.
I just always loved to compete. We didn't go on vacations when we were family. We went to WV football games. We went to basketball games. Like, that's what we did as a family. My dad took me to the state tournament for the single A game and for the double A game every single year. And sometimes parents do that for kids because they want them, to experience that.
Yeah.
For me, I craved it.
Right.
I couldn't get enough of it. I didn't want to go hunting. I wanted to go to the gym and watch my cousin practice basketball. I wanted to be the ball boy. That was just something in me, and I loved it. And I was blessed to have success in basketball. I was skilled, and people knew me as a basketball player.
Right.
That was contagious for me. I love that. That's kind of what I was known as, that I love the game of basketball. It just kind of stuck with me. It's a gift and a curse. I don't really care about winning. I just despise losing. And I think the greatest thing to help you to not lose is to maximize your ability and try to maximize those on the court with you. That's why I love the game. I love the game of basketball. I think you can have a direct impact with that. And anybody that knows me or has played with me know I'm a little competitive. It's not always the best side of me, but I can't help it. It just is who I am.
Yeah, you touched on something funny there. I never went hunting, just wasn't my thing, I grew up in the country of North Carolina. Obviously, you grew up in the country of West Virginia, and people always wondered why I didn't hunt or why I don't hunt. My answer always was, well, I mean, it's basketball
season. It's basketball season.
We're in the gym.
I'm not sleeping in. I'm 9, and no offense, Grandpa, I don't want the Tudor's biscuit. I want to go watch. I want to go watch my cousin practice.
And that's, listen, for those that hunt, that's your passion. I support
that. That's awesome.
Yeah, support it. And I know there's a lot of passionate people out there, but man, I was interested in other things, and during that time, for sure, it was basketball. So, hey, man,
and you hit on something too. Like, I'm blessed that I've been able to find what my passion is, and I'm able to be married to someone who shares that passion. To be able to incorporate my faith with that passion, and now I get to do that as a living. Like, that just doesn't happen for everyone. So I don't ever want to think that it's because of me. I'm just really, really blessed. Yeah. So I don't take that for granted ever.
Absolutely, man. Hey, let's jump ahead to obviously, man, we could go through list of things you've accomplished as a coach and players you were able to coach, Huntington Prep and Mountain State and Huntington Prep and stuff. But let's jump ahead to Teays Valley. You walked into a situation there where you're starting a prep program from scratch, from the very ground and building it up. So, walking into that situation, talk to us about what your mindset was and just how, and for those of you that don't know, top 25 ranking, knocked off perennial powerhouse Oak Hill Academy, goes from basically no prep program, and now we've got multiple Division I basketball players, high major offers. So, talk to us a little bit about, building that program and what was your mindset going into that?
Well, again, I was fortunate enough to have coached at every level. I mean, I've seen I've coached against the number one picks in the NBA draft. One of my last, people talk, we coached against teams who had 3 top 5 NBA picks,
Right.
And I coached JV basketball at University of Rio Grande and Hamden High School for 2 years. So I've seen both sides of it. So when we started the prep program at Teays Valley, I knew that it was just based upon building a culture and trying to build that culture to compete at the highest level of high school basketball. And that was the dream and that was the goal. I realized and I knew you're only going to do that if you get the right players in, but you can't do it with just talent. I had seen teams who are ultra talented who couldn't win at that level because they didn't bring in the right kids. And I've seen teams who have brought in the right kids, but they're not talented enough to compete at that level. So you've got to figure it's really, really important in recruiting the right kid. And at Teays Valley, to bring in the right kid who fits that culture, who wants to grow, who realizes it's much bigger than what you do on the court. What you do every day, all day, allows you to be your best on the court. And we were just everything I go back to, I'm going to keep referring to, I was blessed. We were just so fortunate to get some kids early on that were just amazing. I mean, and I don't want to leave anybody out, so I won't go into names. But, man, we had a few kids who just bought into what we were selling. Right. We failed the first year. We still won 20 games, but we were not what we wanted to be. And then, Mr. Davis helped us out a little bit. He gave us a couple scholarships, and that was huge. We were able to go and get talent that we couldn't previously get. But I think the key at Teays Valley was the development, and you can attest to that, is we brought in the right kids, but then we developed them to be – every coach wants to maximize the potential of their players. I think we were able to maybe not maximize, but get close because of the family we had. And it wasn't me. It was from the administration to the community to yourself and other players like yourself coming in the summers and kicking these guys' butts, but then teaching them while you were kicking their butt. It was just a really old school mindset. And it was cool because it was almost like we had a feel of, a 90s public school of the older guys coming in and teaching the young guys. But it just so happened that these young guys were from all over the world. Right. And it was one of the most special things that's ever happened to me in my career. I don't know if anything will ever duplicate that. The players that we were able to coach are the reason why I'm in the position I'm in now. So it was pretty awesome. So, when we beat the Oak Hill, which was our biggest win as far as publicity, because it put us in the top 25, and they were ranked top 5 in the country, and they had Cole Anthony and a host of others. It wasn't a surprise, to be quite honest. We expected – I felt more confident playing Oak Hill than I did playing Morgantown High School my first year. I felt more confident playing against Oak Hill Academy than I did Morgantown High School, just because the guys had done what they were supposed to do every day. And we just thought we just need to play Teays Valley Christian basketball and it'd work out. Right.
Yeah, man. The short time that I was with you on a day-to-day basis, and then just my observations of what you've done, over the course of your time there at Teays Valley and before. But one of the things that always stood out to me was your attention to detail. And, just talk a little bit about your mindset as it pertains to, the little details and how that plays into your program, obviously off the court, but also on the court.
Yeah, I think you start to study, you study, I study players, I study coaches, I study the Bible, and all of them are just paying attention to all small details. When you hear about Kobe talking about, and we all talk about Kobe now that he's passed, but when you hear him talking about I want to be known as a player who had amazing talent but worked like he had none.
Right.
When you see Jordan, when you see the great dynasties, when you see the attention to detail that Bill Belichick has, when you see the attention to detail that Villanova has, when I'm stealing stuff from all these great coaches, but I've been smart enough to understand you can steal stuff, but you have to do what you feel as an instinct. So stealing stuff from great people and their work ethic, and then also not being talented. I mean, you've played with me, I think I've maximized my athleticism as about as well as many people can. I mean, I'm one of the worst athletes to ever, probably play college basketball. It is what it is, but, paying attention to every little detail to succeed has just been part of who I am. And growing up where I grew up, it's just part of who I am. So getting teams to understand that is so important to maximize their ability. And, that's the culture that we're wanting to build at the University of Rio Grande. And we're working on that right now. That's tough with the pandemic, but we're working on that with projects with the guys of everybody thinks they're working, but then to really focus on the details and what it is that you're working on. It's amazing the clarity that comes from that. And, if you can apply that to everything you do, then the games are the games, then the games are easy. You just play the way you know to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And just for those that don't know, I mean, if we're talking about tangible details in the game of basketball, I'm talking about everything from our eyes, our feet, our guide hands, our how we use our pivots, taught to the nth degree. So, talk a little bit about transitioning into this teaching of fundamentals. I know when you're building a system, a lot of people incorporate their system into their fundamental drills. And, I've noticed that with you, just watching you. Talk a little bit about, how you've been able to do that and how important that is for the overall development of your system.
Yeah, well, the best thing about me is I'm not a fan of teams. I'm a fan of the game of basketball. My favorite team is now the University of Rio Grande. I'm obsessed with my team. And it's tough because I grew up being a fan of teams. I grew up being a WVU fan. I grew up being a Chicago Bull fan. And I'm no longer a fan of teams because I can't turn my brain off. If I watch a football game, I think about how can what they're doing impact Rio Grande basketball. So I get obsessed with our team. But everybody wants to, all players want to shoot step backs. All players want to shoot a three. All players want to do this, but they don't know which pivot foot they're supposed to use. It's amazing to me. So our system is we're going to start it from the most fundamental detail we can have. And we call it triangle passing. Yep. And what you're working on is a guide hand, a pivot foot, setting a screen, opening up, catching the ball in triple threat, putting a name on a pass, and staying in a stance. That's the first drill we usually work on. And players think they're too cool for it until they realize they have no idea what they're doing. Yeah. It's amazing. We're going to start our foundation of our offense based on buddy league fundamentals.
Right.
I think that's what's wrong with youth sports right now is we've gotten away from that. Yeah. So we're going to teach the most fundamental things we can, and then let the team take us to advanced as we can. But the amazing thing I found out is the more talent you have, the more details you can master, the less creative you need to be. When you've got 5 guys on the floor that can all post, shoot, and pass, the game's pretty simple. It can be very, very simple. And, that team 2 years ago at Teays Valley Christian, I got so much credit about how fun it was to watch that team play. I mean, they were just amazing. They were great players. They were great players who bought into learning the fundamentals, and they took over the program. So we won't advance until we master a fundamental. And then once you master a fundamental, then we just start layering on top of that. And we can take you as far as you want to go, but you don't need to learn how to shoot a step back if you don't know how to use a ball screen and keep a guy on your hip. Like, what's the point? Right. And I don't think I'm an offensive coach. I don't think I'm a defensive coach. I'm a coach who thinks everything goes hand in hand. If you're a great offensive team, it sets up to be a good defensive team. And if you can be a great defensive team, then we know we can set up to be a great offensive team. And if we're a great offensive team, we can be a great transition team. It all works together. So, and the fundamentals and the details, the main principle of our defense is stay between your man and the basket. It's not, stay in a stance, stay between your man and the basket. It's amazing. But we start with details, and that's not sexy, or that's not, what skill trainers are teaching.
Right.
But it's why we've had success, and I hope that's going to be something that we're going to have success with at Rio as well.
Right. You just mentioned something, and you used the term bought in. Most coaches obviously know that buy-in is important to effectively implement your system. It doesn't just happen. It has to be cultivated. So, what are some things that you do, some tangible things that you do to cultivate buy-in?
The most important thing to cultivate buy-in is get to know the human being first. And I'm blessed that I get to recruit. I've got an advantage that most high school coaches don't have, is that I get to recruit. I got to recruit at Teays Valley. I get to recruit at the University of Rio Grande. So I get to get a relationship with that person before I bring them in. So then, immediately I have an advantage. But, getting to know that human being and getting to know, what motivates them, who they are, what they really want. Because at the end of the day, I've heard a lot of coaches say you can't change a person. If that person doesn't love the game of basketball, then in a big moment, I don't care. Coach K is not going to motivate that person to love basketball if they don't love it. So getting to know the person and making sure that they love the game. And then the greatest thing for buy-in for us is the ability to teach kids through failure, and to lift them up when they fail. As long as someone is giving their best, I need to be a teacher. And I think if you do those things and you have a kid who loves the game, then you're going to find that mutual respect for each other of, I care about you, you care about me.
Right.
We're going to be able to do this. And every coach wants it. Every coach needs it. But for me, that's the most important thing. You can't get buy-in without someone who wants to buy in. Right. And in the high school level, I didn't have to do this as much, but I think it's important for coaches to really get to know parents, and then on the vice versa, is parents to get to know the coach. And I don't want to be the guy who sits up there and is like, well, parents are crazy to say, but I mean, you're entrusting this man with your son to bring out the best in him. Boy, wouldn't it be an amazing idea if you got to know him as a human being? It's just an interesting concept to me. But, I think buy-in comes from a relationship that you have fostered with a player, and then for them to believe in you. If that player doesn't think working on those fundamentals is going to make them better basketball player, they're not going to do it. But for me, getting to know the person and being, I should have hit on this first, is being honest with the player. When we go through the recruitment, we lost a recruit about a week ago because I was pretty brutally honest with them. And it's not really what they wanted to hear, that they had a coach telling them that they were going to give them, more freedom and all, and that's fine. But, that's not who I am. And so I'm going to be honest with that player, and he didn't like that. So that's okay. Because what would have happened is I'm not going to change who I am. Right. And he wouldn't have enjoyed that. So we're going to have conflict in the season anyway. So being honest with kids, I think is important to develop that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. You said, one of the things that you do is to help your players learn through failure. And I think that this has been on my mind since we were planning for our season last offseason, this past season that we just completed. And one of the things that I just think is so valuable for this generation of kids, and our generation too, to be honest with you, is to understand that things are not going to go your way, and that you are going to fail, and that you will make mistakes. And it's about how we respond to those and learn from those. And so I think the good teams are able to do that as coaches. we've got to find better ways to help them do that, and that's one thing I've seen. And, your players, they know when they mess up, you know what I mean? You tell them, they know it. It's been taught to them. And so, you've been able to foster that environment of learning through mistakes, and I think that for coaches to be successful, that's something that we have to do with our team.
Yeah. I think the life sometimes comes down to some people are winners and some people are losers. And I say that, people are like, whoa, wait a minute. But I don't think it's about, how much money you have or whether or not you have this or that. I think a winner, if they fail, can admit it, face it, look at it, and grow from it.
Right.
I think a loser, if they fail, looks at it, makes an excuse, makes himself feel better, and move away from it. And I know that's pretty cut and dry, but I just think it is.
Yeah.
I think life's as simple as that. And I tie that in with my faith, is that if I'm going to be perfect, I know it's impossible. I'm not going to be perfect. And, if I was going to be perfect, Christ wouldn't have had to die on the cross for me. I am far, far from it. But when I fail, I don't look at the excuse of, oh, that's okay, that's supposed to. No,
yeah.
I failed. How can I grow from this? And if I'm in a constant place of growth, then I can be a winner. And it's really simple. And I try to live my life like that. And we try to get players who want to live their life that way too.
All right. As we get close to closing here, just talk, outside of preparing kids through failure, talk about some other ways that you help young people through the game of basketball and prepare them for life.
I think the greatest gift that you can do is be able to give your energy to someone else. I think the greatest gift I have as a basketball player is we're part of a team sport. And if I can teach these young men that life is going to be so much better if you learn how to give, and if you learn how to sacrifice for others, the impact you can have on the game, on a community, on a university, on your family, the impact that you can have if you learn to give your energy, right? Physical, mental, give your compassion, give your knowledge, give your toughness. Just give yourself to something. Give yourself to the university. Give yourself to St. Albans basketball. Give yourself to the first responders during this time. If you can teach someone that, you have an amazing opportunity. So that's the most important thing for me, is to teach these kids, and especially in a world that's all on the tape. Yeah. Everybody's on the tape, and everybody's doing things for likes. Right. Teaching people how to give to make a situation better, and hopefully they'll have faith that they're going to have success because of that. That'll wake you up every morning right there.
Absolutely.
if you can't get up out of bed excited for that every morning, I don't know. So
yeah, Coach. As we close, you're the head coach at Rio Grande. I've heard you say it. You're living a dream. You're dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. Nobody in the world has ever dealt with it that's alive, anything like this. How are you dealing with this, with your program? You're starting your program out dealing with this. How are you handling it, and what are you doing, and what are you looking forward to in the future here with Rio?
The toughest thing for me was I was starting to search, and I was calling coaches of, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? And then I stopped, and I was like, time out. Be Ryan, all right? Be who you are. Let's stop and think about what I would be doing if this didn't happen, and then figure out how can I still do that same thing with the circumstances that I have, right? Controlling what I can control, but yet getting to know the player, which is the most important part of recruiting. Again, blessed. The first 3 kids I signed, I've watched every one of those kids with my eyes play. I've coached against every one of those kids. So I was blessed to get 3 recruits who, what people can't do, I've already done. Yeah. I've already watched these kids. I've set and watch their foot speed. I've watched them compete. I've coached against them. That helped me tremendously. You know, that I was very beneficial in that. And then the other players, I mean, I'm just watching so much film, you know, and not highlight.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm 37. I can put together a highlight, look like an All-American. All right. You know, highlights are great, but watching game film, man, one of the great things at the college level is synergy. You know, and so I have just watched hours and hours and hours of film on recruits. But you know, it's a lot of the same. The thing you don't get is this. You know, we FaceTime with recruits and we get to know them and we talk to their parents and we talk to everybody, but you don't get this.
Right.
So you just have to understand that. You can't trust your feel. You know, you've got to take you've got to get as much information as you can and then move forward. But I love our recruiting class. We've done a few different things. Again, you know, we're doing pyramids right now with our players, and I won't get into that. But it's allowing them to focus, really focus in on one specific thing and really go to work on it that they can improve with these circumstances. And then we've got them posting their workouts in the group. So what you would usually get from a group team workout, we're getting that just through text. Like, you know, hey, I worked out this morning before 7:30. I got my workout in, plus I got up 100 shots on an outdoor court and did a dribbling workout. So that motivation is good. And, you know, one of the cool things about this that maybe doesn't happen usually is our recruits are really getting to know our returning players, and we're all starting to form a really good that you usually wouldn't get at this time because you'd have those guys still in high school and or wherever they're at their other colleges, and our guys at our place. So we've been able to really come together and bond through that, through this experience. So, you know, that's been fantastic.
Awesome, man. Well, Coach, you know, I've been to Rio, University of Rio Grande. I've coached many summer game there at the team camp, and I know it's a special place. I know it means a lot to you. I'm looking forward to watching you develop your program there and the success that you're going to have and doing it the right way. So I'm excited to see that. And I'm also very grateful that you would join me today, man. And
my pleasure, brother.
Yeah, best of luck to you, brother. We're going to close it out, and I'll be in touch with you. And we'll see you next time.
I appreciate you, brother.
All right, man.